Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me for our daily practice check-in. Listen, listen, listen. This wonderful sound calls us back to our true home. The fifth mindfulness training. Aware of the suffering caused by unmindful consumption, I vow to cultivate good health, both physical and mental, for myself, my family, and my society by practicing mindful eating, drinking, and consuming. I will ingest only items that preserve peace, well-being, and joy in my body, in my consciousness, and in the collective body and consciousness of my family and society. I'm determined not to use alcohol or any other items that contain toxins, such as certain TV programs, magazines, books, films, and conversations. I am aware that to damage my body or my consciousness with these poisons is to betray my ancestors, my parents, my society, and future generations. I will work to transform violence, fear, anger, and confusion in myself and in society by practicing a diet for myself and for society. I understand that a proper diet is crucial for self-transformation and the transformation of society. We've been reading More Than Mindfulness, Widening the Field of Practice by the Monastics of the Taifora Sangha for our Dharma lessons. We're continuing in a talk by Ajahn Jayasaro on the paramis as practices of liberation. The sensuality that we are renouncing in meditation is not restricted to the coarser forms of delight, sexual fantasies, and so on. We renounce whatever it is that we enjoy thinking about and dwelling upon. Memories and perceptions of what we like pull us away from the meditation object. Being mindful of the breath means not forgetting it, bearing it in mind. But if it does wander, recognizing that it has done so means the mind is back on track. It is a moment of clear awareness, of sampajanya, comprehension that what you're doing now is not what you set out to do. In effect, you wake up to what's going on. Following that moment of wakefulness, the return to the meditation object is the actual practice of Nekkhamma parami. It means you make the decision to reject the sensual world of indulgence and trivial enjoyments and return to the task in hand. You are voluntarily returning to the simple, non-exciting reality in the present moment. Many people who start to meditate are discouraged when they find that their meditation practice consists primarily of bringing the mind back to the breath. It goes off and you bring it back. And then it goes again and you bring it back again, and so on. You may think, I'm not doing this right, or I can't do this properly. But wandering and returning is the point. You're developing an ability to recognize that the mind has strayed. You're developing the strength of mind and the renunciation to say, yes, even though I find this quite an enjoyable mental state, quite an enjoyable thought and memory, I'm going to put it down because I aspire to something higher and more meaningful. Often, the reason why thoughts, the same thoughts, return again and again is because there's still a delight in them. There's an abiding interest in the thought and the mental state, so you bring the mind back. But if it's not done wholeheartedly, there's no real renunciation involved. There's still a lingering interest and a desire to carry on that thought to its conclusion. After the mind is back with the breath for a short time, it strays back to where it was just now, and you become even more frustrated. The spirit of renunciation is key. A couple of suggestions here on dealing with distracting thoughts in meditation. If the distraction is predominantly one of words rather than images, when you catch yourself thinking a particular phrase, then rather than returning to the meditation object straight away, deliberately repeat the phrase in your mind a few times. After a few repetitions, a feeling of boredom will arise, and at that point, return to the breath. Now there is a wholehearted renunciation of the thought. You don't want to think that anymore. A variation on this is to carry on the train of thought in a very slow and deliberate way. Very soon, you lose interest in it and can return to the breath voluntarily. So if your mindfulness is strong and your commitment is strong, then merely being aware that the mind has strayed, that awareness, that awakening of the mind is sufficient for the thought to fall away, to cease by itself. But in the case that the thought is more tenacious and there's more investment in it, these two techniques, counterintuitive as they may seem, can be very helpful. Renunciation is simplification. Simplification allows us to see the way things are much more clearly and effectively. We feel lighter, we feel brighter, we feel the confidence to recognize that without attachment to enjoyments of memory, imagination, and so on, we feel better. We make a profit. We don't lose out in any way. May all beings be well. May all beings be happy. May all beings be at peace. Namo Adida Phat. Thanks so much for joining me today.